What's going on? Hideout Gaming here. Let's start things off with a small boss montage, as I needed some bulk upgrade shards for my armor sets later. Alrighty, so we are back and now I'd like to finish off this area. Last time I mentioned there was another project I wanted to do here, and that project is a crystal area. I wanted a large scale crystal area just for aesthetics, so to do so I started off by crafting some crystal walls. These walls cost 1 omni crystal each, a crystal you get only during the crystal hunt incursions, so I was going to need to do a ton of them. And then I got started on creating a perimeter for the area I wanted. I also realized if my town had no opening, then raiders would break my walls down, so I was sure to leave some open entryways so that they had an easier time to raid. For me, I'd rather them enter easier than destroy my stuff and for me to rebuild it. Once I ran out of crystals, I went back and crafted myself a full set of sapphire crystal armor and upgraded it to tier 5. This was going to be the start of my range build. The bonuses of this set give me increased resilience gain and some nice attack speed boosts. This is super helpful as my weapon of choice is the Raven's Nest Great Bow. When shot, it shoots 3 ravens out that do huge damage. The downside is that great bows shoot so slowly, so my goal was get enough attack speed to a point I find comfy, and then stack the remaining enchantments and buffs into critical hit chance. I managed to get it to a tier 4 and was 3 shards away from a tier 5. So I took my build to a tier 5 Sage and Grit fight. This set, whilst not even enchanted, was able to deal some serious damage. I can see this becoming my favourite set. The summons are good because it means I can mine and do my own thing, whilst they protect me, but for raw DPS and damage, I think this may just be the set for me. I went back, upgraded it to tier 5, and then started enchanting all of my gear. I had a masterful enchant scroll in my chest for the weapon, so that was a huge cost savings. So before I did enchantments on everything, I was getting about 1 to 1.2 thousand DPS, and then I upgraded my armor to give me an extra 24% attack speed, which would certainly help a lot into getting the great bow firing like a regular bow. I then got to enchanting some of my needed trinkets to precise for the critical hit chance, as I felt my attack speed was at a good point. I then needed a frozen wave trinket to increase my critical hit damage by 25%, and could grab another from the snow caves. As you can see, I explored a brand new cave, about 50% of it, and didn't even find a single chest. And then chest number 1 got me a frozen heart, which is not so bad as I did need to craft another frozen soul. Chest number 2 was nothing too useful. Chest number 3 had a magic item that I didn't need. Chest number 4 had more of the same, and then chest number 5 I broke by mistake, but it had the item I was looking for. I then headed on over to the pirate's hideout to snag another lifeline so that I can craft a frozen soul to make this one unique to my current set. I was currently using the one from my old summon set, but I needed 2 so that I could have a different enchantment on this one and didn't want to ruin my other set. I also saw a nice upgrade to my mining set, the Miner's Bouquet. This gives 40% tool damage, but an additional 25% mining speed, which is insane. With all of my upgrades, I wanted to test out my set. But just as I was about to spawn the boss, I got rudely interrupted by some raiders. I also used my new range build, and instead of damaging them with my summons, the great bow did piercing damage to hit multiple at a time, which allowed me to clean them up pretty nicely. They hardly made it to the shoreline, and the resilience build I got up from hitting the enemies was enough to offset any damage. After the raid, I went back to face the slime boss, and whilst it was going well, I forgot just how aggressive it can get and nearly got absolutely stomped towards the end, but I made it through with just 11 HP and no lifeline. Either way, I'd say it was a success, and the speed at which I defeated the boss was pretty impressive for a half-finished build. I then went back and started enchanting my gear with better enchantments, but didn't get so lucky. So, with a ton of PvE done, a new range build, and a bunch of upgrade shards, it was now time to do some more building and finish my projects. This project was going to be an angler's resort, a place for most if not all my anglers to go. This way they can fish and sleep in some little cabins on stilts, and then I also created some jetties to fish from so they don't have to stray too far. I finished off the jetties and got to working on my rooms. I started with the foundations by using my infinite water bucket to make some land, and then placing down some walls. I then finally got to decorating each room with the furniture I had available in my chests. Whilst I was decorating housing, I also got to decorating this house that I had built last time so I can fit another 2 settlers. On the topic of more people, I hired a bunch more and jumped from town to town looking. I ended up hiring 6 more anglers to fill the new fisherman houses I made, but I forgot to record it and I do apologize for that, and then I also hired 4 more farmers. I also started decorating this area with a ton of flower patches of all kinds of colors. The significant lack of blue flowers was just due to me not having any and having to go find more in the snow biome. But I found I could place the fire mown and ice mown down on the grass, so I put a few of them out and it really did look like a nice fairy garden. It was super nice looking and super relaxing. I just wish I could get some fish to pop into this pond to see them swimming around. I think that would add some super nice atmosphere. Also, whilst I ponder on what to build here, I just want to let everyone know that with 1.0 update in November, this series will most likely come to an early end. I don't want to miss what 1.0 has to offer, and the best way to do that is to start a new playthrough on a new world, so that's exactly what I'll be doing. Let me know down in the comments what you want to see here, as I'm not 100% sure. I'm thinking I just round up and release as many animals as possible and have it act as a giant garden with mixed breeding grounds with like cows, pigs, sheep. I'll even round up some ostriches and have it look like an old city that's been overrun post-apocalypse style. So with my fisherman area completed, it was now time to work on my crystal area. Now crystal walls require tons of omni crystals and pearlescent crystals, and so would any future crystal armor I needed. I would have to do stacks of crystal incursions in both the hunt and excavate variations. So that was also a nice way to let me try out my new ranged build. This build is so nice as each raven arrow does a ton of damage but also builds up my resilience. After maxing a summon set with resilience and having no way to gain it, it did feel really nice to be able to gain and utilize resilience now. Plus my set bonus allowed me to get increased resilience gain when activated as well. So with a multi-hitting bow, I was acquiring heaps of resilience in a little amount of time. As I continued to alternate between hunt incursions and collecting all the crystals and defeating all the dragons, I also forgot that I could upgrade my gateway tablets up to tier 6, and I could also throw them in a salvage station to get some free upgrade shards for some low level gateways. I managed to snag myself just over 300 upgrade shards just by salvaging the low level gateways. And then with all the crystals I had gathered, I set out on completing my crystal area with more walls and alternating some of those walls with the alchemy shard infused walls as well. I wasn't prepared to mix in some upgrade shard walls as the upgrade shards were proving to be in high demand. Once the walls were finished, I decided to tile the crystal area with a mixture of the 4 colored crystal floors. The issue that happened though was I got raided. However, this raid was so easy, and as you can see on the minimap, they just disappear as fast as they appeared due to the immense damage of this build. Once the raiders were taken care of, I went back and completed the task at hand. I'm just going to skip ahead to finishing this, as this was very tedious, and the downside to these floors is that they get overwritten rather than replaced. So if I place down a ruby tile and then a sapphire tile over it, I didn't get my ruby tile back. So I made the mistake of trying to scatter them first and then mix and match, whereas I should have just done segments at a time so I didn't waste so many crystal resources. So with the floor done, the cherry on top of the crystal zone was some pearlescent diamonds. These things had their own glow and shine to them, which rotates 3 colors in a prism-like way. So I scattered them around, and this is my finished area. And then to top off the crystal zone, to access it, you have to walk through the armor room. And well, the armor room was looking a little lackluster, and to make a start on filling those empty mannequins, I began crafting 1 of each armor set. I wasn't going to craft 1 of each type, as in 1 crown, 1 helmet, and 1 hood, for all the multi-style sets, as that may be something I do later, if I feel the need to expand. But at least 1 of each set was a good start. My end goal is to have 1 of each of these as tier 5. Not because I'll be utilizing them all, but more of just a showcase. This game doesn't have trophies to show off in bases, so I think this is a good way to start showing my progression. I then went back and crafted more armor to place on the armor stands, and surprisingly had all the resources for most of what I wanted. Now I will probably, if I get enough time, remodel this area. Ideally, I'd start with leather and cloth and one of each style, and then work my way up to the end game with Dawn, Dusk, Raven, and the Arcanic set so that it's more organized as a Hall of Fame. And who knows, maybe I go even further and add pedestals of the weapons for that armor too, and categorize them by combat style. I also have a question for you lot on YouTube. What is your take on this? Probably a hot take, but I think my settlement has gotten to the point where I'd rather see what armor sets everyone is in, rather than the settler type that they are. Let me know if I should keep this setting on, the show settler helmet, on or off. I think seeing the variety of settlers and trades is cool, but also seeing them in endgame armor or battle ready gear just looks so much better as a showcase of how far this settlement has come. But let me know down in the comments if I should show the helmet or remove the helmet. I then went back to my armory with some more armor, and the final 4 slots will be for the 3 crystal sets as they look different visually when completed, and the Ravenlord set as that one is a super unique incursion only armor. With most of my armor done, I did need more crystal armor, more dawn armor, and more dusk. So I set off to fight a few bosses again. Me being me, I got distracted and thought I should really take some of the tiles and walls with me for both the arenas, the Dawn Arena and the Dusk Arena. But before I looted the arena, I have to beat the boss. It wouldn't sit right with me if I just jumped into an incursion, looted it, and left. So trying out my new range set on these bosses was a breeze. As you can see, the boss absolutely melts, and then I stole all the floors and walls. What you're seeing here is me in a tier 5 Dawn armor set. This set is optimized for melee and has special perks during the day, where if I attack, it creates a blast radius around me. And then I decided to pair that with the Knight's Edge boomerang that I got during one of my incursions. However, this set wasn't completely optimized, and I was theory crafting a dodge set, where if I dodged, I got resilience, and then if I got hit, I got my dodges back. So I thought the synergy here was really cool, and kind of a Captain America style build. Dodge and throw a shield or boomerang in this case. But I needed a few extra trinkets. However, it took me forever to kill the Ancient Vulture in a tier 5 armor set with tier 5 weapons. So I quickly realized this set just wasn't meant to be endgame viable. I even took the completed set to the Moonlight Dancer, and it just didn't perform great. Minimal damage, even with the armor set bonus too. To me, this is probably better suited to multiplayer, as you can get some nice damage from a distance off, and not have to worry about the enemy aggression too much. But for solo DPS play, I wouldn't rate it. I also tried it out on a tier 5 Crystal Dragon, and ended up swapping back to range. My range build was very quickly becoming my favorite set. I also wanted to swap my balanced foci out for specific ones for the extra 5% DPS boosts. I'm almost certain the 5% is more than the tick damage from the frost fire. So I killed a few Evil's protectors, I crafted some more crystal gear, and nearly finished my armory. It was missing a crystal chest piece and a full Ravenlord armor set. Thankfully, and by some miracle, I had a tier 5 graveyard incursion that gave me a full Ravenlord armor set. So as I do in these graveyard incursions, I let my summons deal with the enemies whilst I just loot everything. Tons of money, potions, and gear. And then for the boss, my new range set was going to be amazing due to the piercing damage. So I'm just going to let the boss fight play, as it was a quick fight. And as you can see, these bats are getting absolutely minced. My ravens are eating them for breakfast. And just like that, easy peasy, I got myself the full Raven armor set. Also, if you haven't already seen it and are interested in the Ravenlord armor set, I have a build video on this set as the damage scales with player speed. Kind of niche, but really cool nonetheless. I placed down the Ravenlord Armor set and completed my armory. And then one last thing for this episode, I forgot to mention that the Fallen Altar tablets can be upgraded at the upgrade station. I upgraded the Sun tablet from tier 5 to tier 6. This is the highest possible difficulty of incursion, and the only way to obtain a tier 6 incursion tablet is through upgrading it. So with a boss that I always struggled with, let's see how I go. So the fight didn't go so well, but what was this shenanigans? Let me rewind that a bit so you can see it again. That hand just locked in and pretty much had a hold of me and didn't let go. So rematch it was. I threw everything I had at this rematch. I drank all of the greater potions and had a minion potion to get me at least one summon for some extra damage, and this fight went super smooth. This episode, we finished the crystal area, the angler's paradise, placed more coconuts and finished our flower garden, but also finished the armory. And I now had a melee, a mage, a summon, a range, and a resource gathering set. Now that's 5 armor sets and the game only has 4, so I had to deposit one to ensure I could keep my gathering set. But I hope you all enjoyed this episode, and as always, have yourselves a happy time zone. That means good morning, good afternoon, or good night, wherever you may be, and I hope to see you next time.